If I had a nickel for every time I saw an anime that was similar to Mushoku Tensei just for this anime season alone, I would have 2 nickels. But the fact that it happened twice in literally under a week is what is very strange. This is a new anime that came out literally just a few days ago. The title of it is From Old Country Bumpkin to Master Swordsman. The first episode's out, and I'm going to let you know if you're wanting to watch this, it's on Amazon Prime, and I know that's not the best optimal viewing experience, but if you're curious to where this is at, that's what platform it's on. But getting right into it, though, this series, as soon as I started it, I was whiplashed by Mushoku Tensei vibes. Like, you're not telling me just looking at these brief pictures I'm about to show you, you don't get that vibe. Like, okay, this is the key visual from the anime, okay? And you can already see some slight similarities, but I really want you to look at the title real quick. Look at the title and how it's designed, and now look at Mushoku Tensei's title design. There is definitely some similarities there. Now, I'm not saying that, Mushoku Tensei has, rights and stuff, and they hold the copyright to this type of titling or the colors on a title, but it's very clear that the way the title is done, especially with the key visual, there is some overlap there. You could definitely see some vibes coming off of it, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. I just want to point that out. But also, the main male character, Beryl, he is, I'm not gonna lie, he reminds me a lot of Paul. Like, it just, design-wise alone, being a swordsman at that, the way he carries himself, he legit does feel very similar to Paul Greyrat within Mushoku Tensei. Now, their personalities are slightly different, I will get into that, but I'm just gonna say that it is very strange how we didn't just have the beginning after the end air this season, but now this anime, From Old Country Bumpkin to Master Swordsman. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Is this good? Is this bad? Is this worth your time? Is it not worth your time? Are you going to give it the 3-episode rule? Let's get all into that. Let's just talk about what I just watched and if this is, like I said, good. So, obviously, I've made it very clear, this feels like a Mushoku Tensei spinoff. It does. Like, if you would have told me just straight up, like, for some reason Paul Greyrat got reincarnated into a new anime, I might believe you. Like, I'm serious. Like, it feels that way. It does feel that. And I feel like the animators behind this, the people that were working on this anime, were heavily inspired by MT. And I want to make sure this is clear. There's nothing wrong with that. But I can feel the inspiration. Especially with the line work, the character movement, and everything. It feels that. I feel it. And honestly, that's a good thing. It's been a while since I have felt this way about, like, a reincarnated or a fantasy story. Like, this isn't actually a reincarnation series. I guess I should get into that one first. This is not an isekai. This is not a transported or reincarnated, from my understanding. What this is a traditional fantasy. It's a fantasy story about a master swordsman from the countryside coming to the capital and pretty much training people. It's basically that, okay? And it's in a fantasy setting. So, if you're thinking that this is an isekai, transported, reincarnated, etc., that is not what this is. This is a completely different series. This falls more in line with, let's say, Frieren than anything else. But, anyways, I got ahead of myself. Basically, this series in general, the very tone and vibe of it, it feels immersive, it feels fun, and it feels just lighthearted. And it's been a while since I sat down and watched a series kind of like this, and I appreciate it. It instantly won me over just with those emotions alone, but obviously we need to get into the, the story. We need to get into the meat of the situation and the characters and why I think that if you like, let's say, for instance, Mushoku Tensei or Frieren or something, you might like this. So, first off, the main character. This is our MC. His name is Beryl. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right, but he is a master swordsman in the countryside. And very early on, right off the bat, you basically see that his parents, his older parents, are wanting him to basically find a wife, be able to get a wife and have a child. And he's constantly dealing with this pressure at the household for what it seems like for years at this point, and as time eventually goes on, he has a very rare meeting with one of his old students that basically just straight up admits to him that she is fine with the age gap if he decides to get with her. Like, I want to put this in perspective. The main male character, Beryl, he's like 40-something, okay? I think he's like 44 or whatever, while she She's like in her 20s. It's hilarious that the anime addresses the age gap. Usually that's not really ever acknowledged or addressed within an anime, so I will give props there. I'm pretty impressed by the acknowledgement of that. But more into her character in a moment. Right now I'm just explaining the plot and the MC. So basically, he gets a chance meeting with her and is like, hey, you know, you can come to the capital, or you have to come to the capital to train this order of knights. You have to do it. If you don't, it will look very bad on you, your reputation will be tarnished, you get the point. So he basically is forced to go to the capital and train a bunch of people he does not know, and as an individual, as a character, his personality, it seems like he more or less feels like he's not worthy of the position, but you see throughout the entire episode that everybody is praising this man. Anyone that knows him or recognizes him instantly says, yo, you're an amazing swordsmaster. You're an amazing teacher. You're going to bring a lot of quality to the Order of Knights and stuff. You're going to be able to teach him a lot. But, you know, he gives off this vibe of he's not that good. Like, he implies that he's too humble, so to speak. He's a very humble character. But as the story continues and you get a little bit more introduction to some of his students and he's forced to basically move into the town and all that, eventually he has a sparring match with an individual that's a part of the Knights that legit think that he is, not really that impressive. He's not an impressive fighter, he's not an impressive swordsman, and he wants to see if he's worthy of actually being like a teacher. But, as we see from the very fight, he is very impressive, but he's impressive in a way that it's not flashy. And I think that's what made me really also like this first episode a lot, because what we fundamentally see from the MC is that his talents are not necessarily an overwhelming strength. It is more or less because of the years of wisdom and knowledge he knows of the sword and learning, he is able to read people. He's able to read their movements of the sword, and it definitely feels fundamentally what a sword master should be like, a master swordsman should be like. It's not necessarily about overwhelming power. It's about technique, it's about skill, it's about wisdom and insight into your opponent, and that is what we clearly see with the fight. And I think that fundamentally, that is very engaging for me, because it shows that this show is going to be a little bit more about the sword techniques and learning about how sword fighting is, instead of just strength beats strength, for strength will beat over anything else. It's about your knowledge of the sword. And some might not like that, but I do like the way the character presents it within this episode. The storyboarders, the animators, and everything, they did a fantastic job with that. But basically, he wins over the entire class because it's very clear he's a skilled teacher, and, you know, he gets to get a lot of respect. A lot of people start to respect him, and that's pretty much the episode. That's a very short summary of it, but there's obviously a lot more going on here. So basically, one thing that we get to find out is that he needs a place to live, and this main female character love interest, she is heavily crushing on this man. Like, she's laying it on thick the entire episode. She's like, yo, you can stay with me, you can stay at my place and all that. Obviously, he denies her because he feels like it'd be inappropriate, but, like, she lays it on thick. And pretty much every single individual he comes in contact with, like his old students and stuff, they just straight up, they love him. Like, they absolutely love him, and they kind of have romantic feelings for him. So he's quite the, more or less, quite the player. He definitely gets a lot of people wanting him. He's got his own harem building up, so to speak. But, let's, get into, his character personality. He's a very humble character. He's someone that doesn't lay it on thick. He just thinks he's an average swordsman. He doesn't really think he probably has the skill or talent to probably be able to teach all these very strong Order of Knights. And I really like that about his personality. And this is where his character starts to really diverge from, like, Paul as a character. For instance, Paul, yes, is grounded and he is humble to a degree, but Paul is definitely a hound dog. We have seen what he does with all his female students or people he's fought with and stuff. We know how he is. But the character here in question, Beryl, he's not like that. He's not driven by desire or anything. He's more or less just a straight up swordsmaster. He's a guy that teaches and loves the sword, and he has a lot of technique, a lot of skill, a lot of insight and perception on the sword and who he fights, and I really like his character. He's very humble, and like I said, there is definitely some similarities in terms of design, the green eyes and stuff and all that, to the way the hair color and everything is. You can definitely see a lot of Paul type design. But that's kind of where it starts to deviate, because the characters are fundamentally different. But I do think, though, that people that do like Paul as a character probably will like Beryl as a character, though. I do think that. I truly do believe that. There is probably some overlap of fans, not just of this anime, but also just of the characters. But, like I said, they are pretty different. With that being said, though, I really like this episode. I like the female characters. I liked just how they lay it on Fick with how they want to be with him and stuff. I like the acknowledgement of the age gap romance. There's a lot of stuff I like about this. This is a good show. This actually is. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is the best animated anime I've ever seen, especially for this year or even this past week. But I do think that it is fun. And I think those that like Mushoku Tensei, for instance, or fantasy stories will like this. They will sit down and probably acknowledge it and enjoy it, and I feel like this is one of those series that's just going to be kind of under the radar a little bit, but those that do watch it are going to be very passionate about it, and I think that's fine. It's going to have probably a very niche community, and I'm excited to see where it develops and how the story actually goes. Definitely going to be reviewing this one weekly. I really want to review this one weekly, and if you guys would like to see more of that, if you really do, please do leave a like on this video. But with that being said, though, yeah, can't wait. I'm excited for episode 2. I came out of this one very pleasantly surprised. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment if you enjoyed this episode or didn't enjoy this episode. Leave a like on the video if you want this video to, you know, do well and also be pushed through the algorithm for I can know you guys want more content like this. You know, I guess subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And with that, Chibi out.